Hi, I'm Taji and this is Melanie, and this is Simple Gourmet's life-changing cooking tips. Today we're going to talk about gravy. It's one of those essential holiday things that you have to have on your table, and it's actually really easy to make if you know the basic formula of the recipe. So that's what I'm going to tell you today. The basic ratio is 1 tablespoon butter, 1 tablespoon flour, and 1 cup liquid. Now you can multiply that as many times as you want. So for Thanksgiving, you're probably going to be feeding a lot of people. You might do 4 tablespoons butter, 4 tablespoons flour, and 4 cups of liquid. Today I'm going to work with 2 cups. And the thing to know is that you can really play around with the liquid. So in other words, I'm going to add my butter, my flour to my pan in just a minute, and then I'm going to add in my liquid. In this case, I've got the majority of chicken stock, and I'm going to add in a little bit of apple juice, which is kind of an unusual ingredient, but actually is a really great idea for Thanksgiving because it goes really nicely with turkey. So I'm adding just enough apple juice so that my liquid comes up to 2 cups. All right, so now we're going to make our gravy. So I'm going to heat up a skillet, and I'm actually using a big skillet instead of a small saucepan because the gravy will cook more evenly and it won't burn. So I'm going to add my butter to my skillet, and it's going to melt right away because there's a nice big surface area. And I'm going to add my flour in right away as well. And so what I'm making here is a roux. You've probably made this before if you've made gravy. It's basically a combination of fat and flour. So in this case, I've got some butter, I've got some flour, and I'm using a whisk just to break up all the pieces of flour and make sure that the butter and flour are really combined. And I'm just going to let this cook for about 30 seconds or so to cook out a little bit of the flour flavor before I add any liquid. Now I'm going to add my liquid. And again, in this case, I've got chicken stock with a little bit of apple juice. It's going to add some nice sweetness and a really good flavor. So I'm just whisking in my liquid kind of slowly so that there's no lumps. And this again is why a skillet is really helpful. If you try to do this in a really small pot, little bits of the flour kind of hide in the corner of the pot and it's really hard to whisk out all the lumps. Once I've got all my liquid added in, I'm just going to continue to whisk for a minute to make sure once again all my lumps are out. And now I have to just let this cook for about 5 to 10 minutes. Now what I want to happen is I want little bubbles to appear. It's going to actually start to simmer a little bit and then it's going to start to thicken. Once it starts to thicken, I want to make sure and give it a few minutes to cook so that that flour flavor can really cook out. When you're starting your gravy, you can use other kinds of fat. For instance, instead of butter, you could use the fat from the bottom of your turkey pan. So at Thanksgiving, when you've roasted your turkey, you've taken your turkey out, you've got all that nice fat and flavor in the bottom of the pan. You can take a couple tablespoons of that fat, put that in your pan, add the flour, and then add the liquid, which in that case can be some of the cooking liquid from your turkey, or again, some store-bought turkey stock, chicken stock, and any combination of apple juice. You can use fun things like pear nectar, which is kind of different, or even a little bit of wine. So now we're just going to let this bubble and cook. So our gravy's been cooking for about 10 minutes. It's come up to a really nice bubble, and the bubbles are kind of big, so that tells me that the gravy's kind of thickened. And when I use my whisk, I can really kind of go through the sauce and make sure that it's nice and thick. But remember that as your gravy cools, it actually will get more thick, so you don't want it to be too thick and gloppy on the stove. You want it to still be nice and smooth, but just thick enough. I think this is ready. So now I'm going to put the finishing touches on my gravy. I'm going to sprinkle in some fresh herbs. This is a place where you can add almost any fresh herb. I'm going to use a little tarragon because I think it goes really well with the apple juice. Sprinkle that in. Pinch of salt and pepper. I haven't seasoned this at all yet, and I am using store-bought chicken stock, so I know that it's going to be a little bit salty just from the stock, so I don't want to go too crazy with the salt. Just a pinch should do. I'm just going to give this a stir and give it a taste. Perfect. So I'm going to just serve this beautiful gravy over a little grilled chicken, but again, this would be the perfect gravy for your turkey at Thanksgiving. So there you go, perfectly cooked gravy.